Hello. Before the start of the video, I urge you to subscribe to my channel. It was an ordinary hospital, just like any other. It wasn't remarkable, but the story that happened within its walls struck me to the core. Now I'm telling you. There's a special hospital smell inside, the kind that only happens there. I think you understand. Patients walk from room to room and back to room. Someone eats lunch in the dining room and bangs spoons on plates. A blue-eyed man in a medical robe talking to a woman chief physician. Alexei Vladimirovich, come to room 324. A patient is waiting for you, she said, and looked at his neatly shaven face. She came in recently, quite a baby. The chief physician handed out a weighty patient card. Many times I told you, you can just Alexei, not necessarily so official. He thought for a moment. Now, and go, Irina Petrovna. Lyosha joined them not long ago, transferred from another hospital in connection with the move, and nobody knew why. When asked, he kept silent. He was alone, and the other unmarried women in the hospital were aware of it, and tried to draw his attention to themselves. Alexei always responded in a friendly way, and if someone tried to ask him out, he agreed, but he made no move to get close. He was well-read, erudite, and very handsome, but in terms of relationships he remained cold, and some people were even annoyed by this. Then it's just Irina, Alexei, the woman smiled. And afterwards you can come in for lunch in my office. Irina winked. Okay, it's a deal, Irina Vla. Alexei hesitated. Irina. Velvet voice, said the man. Meanwhile, in room 324 lay a red-haired girl, 5 years old, and was looking at pictures of dogs. Well, who do you like? Asked her mother and stroked her daughter's head. That one. The girl pointed her finger at a black Labrador. Who is it? A Labrador, Dad answered, but flinched when there was a knock on the door. A Labrador? The girl asked again. Almost. Labrador, said the nurse standing nearby clearly to the girl. Good dogs, I had one when I was a child. Alexei intervened in the conversation. Cheerful and playful, just what we need for a child. Was? The girl asked back. My parents were always moving. I had to leave him with my grandma. Is he all right? I have another one now. Alexei said instead of an answer and looked at the card. Sasha, that was the girl's name. He was silent for a long time, flipping through the pages. May I talk to you alone? He asked and frowned. Of course. Why? The mother was surprised. In the meantime, Sasha, draw. Alexei handed her paper and colored pencils, which he took with him to the ward. Parents and doctor left, and the girl did not hear their conversation. How do you like your doctor, Sashenka? The girl looked questioningly at the nurse and continued to draw. His name is Alexei, thought the nurse. He's handsome, isn't he? Well, blushed the girl. I would marry him, but he doesn't reciprocate, not at all. Married? Sasha asked again. Married, nodded the nurse. Play a wedding, invite the entire staff, she dreamily spoke. The wedding? Sasha asked again, and continued to draw. Yes, you know what it is, right? A little bit, Sasha said uncertainly. Mom and Dad talked about it, but I barely remember. I'll tell you, first the newlyweds go to a special house, where a strict aunt announces you husband and wife, so it was with your parents. The nurse began. And there should also be pigeons, and the bride throws the bouquet, contests of all kinds. And the nurse kept telling and telling, until finally the girl's parents entered the room along with Alexei. They were smiling, but the mother's eyes became puffy and red. The girl immediately noticed this and asked, Why were you crying, mother? Is there something wrong with me? Am I going to die like my grandfather? The girl asked in such a calm tone that it gave everyone in the room a creepy feeling. No one could have expected such a direct question, but as is often the case, children are too young to learn about death. Not knowing much about the wedding, They can accurately describe the funeral process. Alexei looked at his parents and they nodded. Tell it like it is, since she asked. She's a grown-up. Sashenka. His voice trembled treacherously. Your last doctor made you take a blood test, and it is not all normal, which may indicate a complicated disease. Alexei thought about it. There may be something in you that needs to be kicked out of your body, but we do not know where to look and what exactly. At one moment, the girl lost a lot of weight. Her stomach was twisting. She was nauseous, her joints and teeth were aching. The latter were giving in the head and in the heart, so it was not easy to make an accurate diagnosis. I do not want to fall asleep forever. Sasha turned the picture to the surrounding people, and they saw a girl and a man in a medical gown. I did not say that you will die, we just do not know how to treat you yet. The doctor tried to reassure her. And when we find out, we will cure you. Thank you, uncle, said the girl and hid the picture. Maybe you want a Labrador? Mom asked. I do, exclaimed the girl. We'll definitely take it, Daddy assured her. Just not like last time. You promised, but you didn't take one then, said Sasha in a demanding tone. Then there were problems with money, but now. Dad threw up his hands and left the unfinished cup of coffee. And now the Labrador. Door. Immediately corrected herself the girl. Yes, everything will be. Mom agreed. Everyone left the room. Valerie, that was the name of the father of the family, turned to the doctor. Actually, we do not have enough money for a dog. Your child may be seriously ill. I would be in your place would look for a puppy, said Alexei, Can, and Mongrel. But maybe you can think of something. Me? The doctor was surprised. Yes, you have a Labrador. Can I buy him cheaper? He is not for sale. The doctor was embarrassed and went away. He was surprised at such a strange request from the head of the family. Why then at all to promise the child a dog, if not enough money to get her, and still need to keep her? Consumed with thoughts about the girl's illness, Alexei found himself in the office of the chief physician. On the table were 2 mugs of tea and 2 plates with a cherry pie. Why such a holiday? The man grinned. No reason. I went to the bakery on the corner and got you, she spoke in a melodious voice. Thank you, Alexei smiled. I went to see the patient in the 324th ward. And how? The chief physician answered cheerlessly. She didn't really want to talk about patients, but after all, the place was conducive to work-related topics. Any thoughts? I fear the worst, but we have to check everything out. I'm very interested in why she's in pain most of the time. The young doctor hesitated. And she also wants a Labrador. She does. Yes. And her father asked me, can you imagine, to give him his Labrador? Alexei complained. I did not know that you have a dog. Irina tried to touch his leg with her foot, but he moved away and did not even notice the hint. Yes, I do. I'll show you the picture. Alexei has livened up. Here, look. In the photos was a cheerful, light-colored Labrador. In one he extended his paw. In another he knocked down a tree. In another he knocked down some girl. Who's that? She pointed to the very girl in the Christmas sweater. Never mind. Alexei answered and took the phone away. The Labrador was her present. That's all worth knowing. Wait, Alexei, did she leave you? Irina prepared to listen to a tirade about her ex. Such a handsome man. In a way, but it's not her fault. Alexei spoke quickly. I think I'll be going now. The doctor got up from the table, took some cards in an armful and almost left. And the pie? You didn't finish it. You don't like the cherries? No, it's fine, really, but the patients are waiting. He answered briefly and disappeared into the doorway. Okay, sighed Irina. The shift was coming to an end. Alexei peeked once more into the room 324. Hello. Hello, Uncle Doctor, responded the girl. How are you doing? Sasha shrugged her shoulders. I'm tired, and my head hurts. Your head hurts because of your teeth, or rather your nerve, said the doctor. I see. Alexei stepped on a plastic cup with his foot. Why was not removed? It's strange. Before you continue, subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Excuse me, Uncle Doctor. The man looked at the girl questioningly. After talking, he found out that she often secretly finishes her coffee after her father. From what Alexei deduced that it made her sick, although that did not explain the poor blood test. Can I see the labrador? This time, Sasha pronounced the letters clearly, as she had been taught. Yes, of course, honey. Look. The man pulled out the phone again, and the same situation as with the chief doctor repeated. But this time Alexei could not stand it and told his story. You see, everyone has his own man. And the wedding. It didn't get to her. Her name was Vika. Black curly hair. Alexei remembers her lavender-scented perfume. He just graduated, become an intern. She was his patient, and she'd been cured, but who knew there was more behind the small stuff? It was scary, and it was hard. They were planning a wedding. Vika gave Lyosha a labrador. They could have had a wonderful, happy life waiting for them, but in an instant everything fell apart. The girl got seriously ill and couldn't make it. And to this day, I blame myself for not being able to do everything I could to save her. Alexei breathed. It's not your fault, Uncle Lyosha. Do you think so? Yes, you are a good doctor, you treat me. Tried to console the man Sasha. But I don't know how to treat you yet, and time goes on. You'll manage. And it's always here, just like my grandfather. Sasha poked the man in the chest, where the heart was. That's what my mother used to say. She added, Thank you. Alexei almost shed a tear in front of the girl. He was so hurt by the loss of his beloved. But he quickly pulled himself together. No reason for the child to despair. Do you want me to read you a story? Yeah, I'll be right back. Alexei came back with a children's book about Dr. Evelet, which was all he could find. Apparently, the rest was stolen by other children. But Sasha didn't mind, so he started reading. Limpopo, Limpopo, Limpopo. The man repeated everything. And their measles, and their diphtheritis, and their smallpox, and their bronchitis, and their headache, and their sore throat, he went on. Their head hurts, said Alexei aloud. And what if it's not the coffee or the nerve that's to blame? The girl was already asleep. And then Alexei guessed it was so obvious. And maybe it seemed obvious to you from the beginning, but unfortunately, so only from the outside. In the morning, the girl was sent for an MRI. And it confirmed what Alexei thought. The man explained to the girl's parents that a complex surgery was required, and that there was a chance of a fatal outcome. They asked Alexei to tell their daughter about it, to tell it as it was, and not to withhold anything. Sasha, there is good news, the doctor began. And bad news, the girl sighed. She had heard this expression more than once since she had been to different doctors. Where to start? Do you know how to treat me? The girl asked and hit the bullseye. Yes, and that is good news. Alexei was surprised. The bad news is that it is a very risky operation, after which you may not wake up. Your parents asked me to tell you the truth about that side of things too. But know that we will do everything in our power to keep you alive and awake forever. He squeezed the little girl's hand. Is there anything else I can do for you before the operation, Sasha? The little girl said nothing and turned over the picture she had shown earlier. It showed a picture of her and a doctor in a medical gown. Only this time she was wearing a white dress, doves all around. I don't really understand, Sasha, to be honest. What do you mean? Alexei was perplexed. The girl frowned and began to add something. Parents looked at each other. Sashenka, maybe you can tell us. Mom asked, but the girl shook her head. And she turned the drawing over again. This time, it was a picture of big golden circles, and Alexei understood what Sasha wanted, but was too shy to say. True, it turned out to be a test for him, too, because the last time he said these words to Vika, and it ended very badly. A lump went up to his throat, and his voice trembled with excitement. He was very afraid that history would repeat itself, that Sasha would meet the same fate as his beloved, but still, after much hesitation, he made up his mind. What can't you do for a child to comfort her, and maybe for the last time in her little life? He didn't tell the whole truth to the girl or her parents. That surgery mostly ends in tears in such a case. It is a gross violation, but it is the only chance to save her. We can only hope and believe that everything will be okay. Alexei got down on one knee and spoke solemnly, suppressing excitement with all his might. Alexandra, will you marry me? Yes, yes, yes. Despite her state of health, Sasha jumped out of bed and began joyfully jumping and stomping her feet. She was very pleased that Alexei understood her without words, as she would not have been able to ask directly. But her head quickly became dizzy and her body became heavy. The doctor picked her up in his arms and put her in the crib. Papa and Mama were shocked by what was happening, but tactfully remained silent. Now the grand preparation for the wedding began. Alexei turned to the chief physician. Irina Pet. Irina, can I ask you for one favor? What? She smiled, holding her breath. I want to play a wedding. Alexei began, and the woman's heart fluttered. Here, in the hospital. Oh my God. I agree. She burst out with enthusiasm. Alexei could not expect such a reaction. He thought that Irina Petrovna would have to talk long to such a venture for the sake of the little patient. He joyfully muttered, I am very happy. And how am I glad, Leo. Thank you, Irina. And the marriage proposal? Asked the chief doctor in the solemn expectation of such a pleasant ritual. Already did, of course, she knows. Alexei openly declared. She. Yes, the girl from the 324th ward. She is going to have a difficult operation. The chances are, let's face it, not very good. The man babbled. And this is her only wish. Thank you for your permission. Now the only thing left is to get white doves, a dress for the bride. My uncle is engaged in pigeons. I will ask him, said Irina less joyfully. She thought that the wedding was intended for her. And here's the thing. Irina, I love you. You are so clever. Thank you for your help. Alexei was ready to lift the woman, if it were not for the table separating them. One more thing, will you be a bridesmaid? Of course, why not? Said Irina and sighed heavily. The man jumped up and ran out of the office, not noticing the reaction of the chief physician. All the girl's thoughts were also absorbed by the upcoming wedding. Sasha was given an important task. Her parents brought her flowers, and she was collecting a bouquet to throw to the next future bride. The bridesmaids, the head doctor, and the nurse, Tatiana, who had encouraged the child to get married, helped her pick out a dress. Irina paid for everything. After she was relieved that the proposal was not for her after all, she was moved and could barely hold back her tears in front of this sweet girl who very soon may not be destined to wake up. The hospital became pleasantly noisy. Everyone contributed to the upcoming ceremony as best they could. The cooks were preparing a delicious meal. They even decided to make a cake. Someone hung garlands to give a more festive atmosphere among the impersonal white walls. Alexei was sitting on the couch in his apartment with his Labrador and said something to him. Hippo, you know I love you very much. The dog looked questioningly at his master and licked his face. And you me, I understand. Hippo barked affirmatively. There is a girl in the hospital, Sasha. She is waiting for a complex operation. Alexei patted the dog on the head, and he lay on his back and put his stomach, saying, Scratch it. I do not know why, but all this reminds me of your mistress, and I want. The doctor hesitated. I want to give her a gift for the last time. You know what I mean. The dog got up and seemed to be listening intently. She wanted a Labrador, but how can I give you? Suddenly, Alexei felt the dog's paw on his shoulder, and it seemed to him that it was Vika through the dog trying to tell them that he was doing everything right, and that everything will be fine. The man sighed heavily and said, "You would know, even though you know how much I miss you, my love. You don't mind that I'm getting married, pretend, of course, but..." His face became wet with dog tongue again. "Don't worry, I approve," she said through Hippo. And a few stingy tears ran down Alexei's face. The man led the Labrador on a leash with him. It did not resist and obediently followed its master. Suddenly, the man heard someone whimpering. The Hippo barked loudly and led the owner away. The whimpering was repeated. And then Alexei realized that it came from a garbage can. Hippo stood with his paws on the tank and tried to knock it over, but failed. Then Alexei began vigorously throwing the garbage aside and finally found a black bag. He took it out and saw a dirty black puppy that was looking at him pitifully. "Oh, my friend, how did it happen?" Alexei said aloud. "What bastards could do such a thing?" Hippo barked loudly. "Yes, I agree, it's just terrible. But nothing, I think I know what to do. Finally, the hour of the ceremony is approaching. Everybody gather round, the wedding is beginning, the wedding," shouted the bridesmaid, Tatiana, and banged her spoon on the cup. Patients and doctors were briefly distracted, and some even brought champagne to the hospital. Children's, of course. There was a church not far from the hospital, and the chief physician managed to arrange with the priest, who decided that there would be nothing wrong if he performed a pretend ceremony for the little baby who needed it so badly. "Do you agree, Alexandra Valerievna, to take Alexei Vladimirovich as your husband?" said the priest. "Yes," said the girl confidently, her mostly pale face covered with a blush. "And you, Alexei Vladimirovich, agree to take Alexandra Valerievna as your wife?" "Yes, I agree," said Alexei, smiling broadly. "Then I declare you husband and wife." He thought for a moment. "Alexei Vladimirovich, you may kiss your wife on the forehead." And he did so, the girl repeated after him. She was so happy that everyone around her felt the happiest people for a while. They decided not to bring pigeons into the hospital, but the girl's dress was wonderful. Confetti flew and people laughed. Then the girl threw a bouquet with flowers of all colors, and it was caught. Who would have thought? Irina Petrovna. "And I have a gift for you. It's not a Labrador, of course, but it seemed to me to be a sign. Look at it." And Alexei gestured for the nurse to bring out a black puppy. He waddled straight to the girl, and she took him in her arms. The parents could not hold back tears. Then something unexpected happened. "And now the wedding night?" the girl asked. Alexei's jaw almost dropped. He looked reproachfully at the nurse, and she shrugged. "Okay, Stasha, let's go to your room," he said, and carried the girl in his arms. The parents tried to come in, but the girl asked to leave them alone, or rather 3, if you count the puppy. "Have you thought of a name for your new friend?" "Not yet," said the girl. "But I have a gift too, husband," she hummed, and pulled out a piece of paper with a picture of a girl in a Christmas sweater, and Alexei guessed that it was Vika. "There, now you know for sure she's around." She spoke quite like an adult. Alexei did not expect this. He accepted the gift and did not say a word, folded the picture, and hid it in his breast pocket, close to his heart. "I'll read you a fairy tale. This time I took about Aladdin." And Alexei began to read. At some point, the girl interrupted him. Her eyes were already slipping. "Wish." "What?" Alexei asked. "I'll call it a wish not to fall asleep forever." It was hard to hold back tears. Alexei believed that the operation will go well. It was done by the best surgeon in the city. Everyone in the hospital held their breath and waited. And what was left? Only hope for the best. This story really happened. True, it happened in New York. The girl's name was Abby, and the doctor who gave her such happiness, Matt. And she too ended happily, as did Arsashenka. The girl survived, and remission set in. It's good that there is room in the world for a miracle. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel.